Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our annual general meeting. I'll officially declare the meeting open at 5:30. Welcome to councillor colleagues who are present, and a special welcome to members of the community who join us, including past alderman Rosemary Armitage, past Deputy Mayor and member for Launceston MLC, and past Alderman Smart. How wonderful to welcome you. And indeed, past Deputy Mayor Alderman Knott. Welcome to all members of the public who join us. In officially opening the annual general meeting, we pay our respects to the traditional and original owners of this land, the Palawa people. I acknowledge the contemporary Tasmanian Aboriginal community and recognise their enduring and continued connection to land, to sea and culture. I recognise a history of truth which acknowledges the impacts of colonisation upon our First Peoples, and I commit to a future that listens to and respects Aboriginal story, culture and history. For the purposes of the recording, we have 7 councillors here. Myself, Deputy Mayor Garwood, councillors Dawkins, Pentridge, Britton, Harris and Mackenzie. We also welcome members of staff who join us, CEO, other members of the executive leadership team and staff. Item 2, the declarations of interest. Does any councillor have any declaration with regard to the matters that are before us in tonight's annual general meeting? There being none, the confirmation of the minutes. I also should say, it was remiss of me, I'm sorry, to note apologies. We have an apology from Councillor Dr. Raze, an apology from Councillor McMahon, who fell unwell overnight, Councillors Kai and Palmer, and no knowledge yet of Councillor Walker, who might attend through the course of the meeting. Are there any additional apologies from the floor? Item 3 is the confirmation of minutes, that the minutes of the annual general meeting of the City of Launceston Council held on the 2nd of December 2021 be confirmed as a true and correct record. Someone to move? Councillor Harris has moved. A seconder, Councillor Mackenzie. Are there any corrections or comments from the floor with regard to those minutes? There being none, we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour raise their hand. Those against? The motion is carried. Item 4, public question time. 4.1, there were no public questions on notice registered as part of this agenda. Item 4.2, public questions without notice. Are there any questions without notice? Mrs. Smart, thank you. If you're happy to move to the microphone, just to announce your... Yeah. Great idea, thank you. And just for the purposes of the recording, just your name and address, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Margot Smart. My address is Glen Eyre, 11 College Street, Launceston. I'm a ratepayer. I have 3 questions without notice, Mr. Mayor. 2, I think, the General Manager. Because of the nature of these questions, they encompass not just this council, previous council and the one prior. Or most of them do anyway. My first question is the General Manager and the Council in general aware that the Launceston Tennis Centre, to which the Council, Reed Launceston, has substantially contributed to over some years, has been sold, and given contracts such as the use of the toilet facilities, etc., abolished, gone with it, meaning the annual Launceston International Tennis event is now to be held in Burnie.
Thank you, Mrs. Smart. CEO, particularly with reference to the sale of that facility, are you able to provide Mrs. Smart with an answer?
So it hasn't been sold. It's still in council's ownership. The reason that the tournament has been shifted for this year is that there was a shortfall in funding to be able to deliver necessary assets to be able to deliver the tournament, so that needed toilets and change rooms and other facilities. And so Tennis Tasmania, or in auspice with Tennis Australia, made a decision to relocate, but they're working with the council and all levels of government to deliver the infrastructure that will still be in council ownership once it's provided, and all assurances are that the tournament will return to Launceston next year.
Thank you, CEO.
Can I have some question on that? So the facilities that were provided under contract last year no longer exist?
It was more a policy decision of the Tennis Australia, where we used to, as you're probably aware, provide temporary facilities to accommodate the tournament, and Tennis Australia made a determination that temporary facilities weren't going to be appropriate moving forward. They want permanent facilities at these tournaments. So that was the main reason. There was a shift in policy there.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Walker at 5:37. Welcome to the meeting.
The second question, I guess, Mr. Mayor, also will go to the General Manager, because it encompasses other council than this, not other councils, but this council prior. It is my understanding, flying the Aboriginal flag, this was discussed by a previous council, but within the confines of that 3 years, the council, on council property. It is my understanding that once a council decision is made on this subject, and it was some 20 years ago, with the refurbishment of the mall and flag poles that were put in place then, that original decision should stand unless rescinded. And yet, in the last council life, this subject was once again brought to the council table and debated. And I personally felt aggrieved on behalf of my Indigenous friends that it had to come once more to the council table. Is that a policy of the council, that you regurgitate these things and debate them again and again without a rescission?
So I guess the first point, Mrs. Smart, that I'd like to make is that in the refurbishment of the mall, one of the things that went were the flagpoles. And so a consideration needed to be given with regard to the flying of flags in terms of council's facilities, including the QV Mag, including Home Point and including Town Hall, given the absence of those flagpoles in the mall. So that, as part of a review of the flag policy in its totality, was definitely a consideration. With regard to the specific decision around flying the Aboriginal flag each and every day on top of Town Hall, that was a unanimous decision of the most recent council, but only given the nature of the fact that there was no flagpoles in the mall, and so that was the decision that was arrived at. CEO, is there anything further you'd like to add there?
No, I think you've covered it well, Mayor.
I understand that, Mr. Mayor, but I just think it's a rather unfortunate incident that it comes across to the public that you're once again debating the fact of raising the Indigenous flag over our public buildings in Launceston. And the public buildings were named. And as I say, I felt aggrieved on behalf of my friends in that community.
Thank you, and that's noted and appreciated.
The third thing, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry to be a nuisance.
Not at all.
I'm actually rather pleased to be a nuisance. What is the council going to do about the mall, generally known round the town as our dead heart? Last time I raised this issue at a previous AGM, I was told that an interstate consultant had been engaged, costing some thousands of dollars, to look at the problem. Well, the problem has got worse. The mall is an absolute disgrace. It's devoid of people most of the time, and I just think that something should be done in a very positive way. We can't always be saying, well, we can't have children in there and we can't have young adults in there and we can't have people doing things in there. They've got to be policed and the rest of it. But I think in a very positive way, we have to do something about our mall. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr Smart, thank you. Those comments are noted and would perhaps be shared by some councillors around the table. I would note that as the trees and greenery continue to mature, that element of the mall is certainly improving the look and feel. I also would suggest that once the Birchall's realisation of that project is fully confirmed, that hopefully we'll see more people in the mall, and indeed that space, which currently, as you referenced, is a dead space, will once again come to life. CEO, I wonder, is there anything further you'd like to add with regard to mall activation?
Yes, I think, thank you, Mayor. Certainly the mall and the broader CBD, that people probably don't appreciate the fact that we're running at 93% occupancy of all our ground floor tenancies across the central Launceston. So in actual fact, Launceston commercial and retail is performing really strongly. So a 7% vacancy of shops really indicates that. So obviously, as the Mayor has said, there's always things that we need to keep doing to improve our civic spaces, which we will. But to say that the CBD is dead and dying would be wrong, because the figures demonstrate that there is a really strong and vibrant commercial CBD.
You go into the mall in the winter, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you'd say it's dead and dying. I can count, on one occasion I had 3 people there, another one 2. I mean, that is not a mall, an active mall.
Mr Smart, your comments are noted and your experience and retail knowledge is appreciated and regarded. It's the will of this council to activate our city and to ensure that we do all that we can. And I'm sure fellow councillors have heard your comments and will continue to do what we can in that space. Are there any additional questions without notice from the floor? Mr Smith, welcome.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Robin Smith on behalf of Coffee Republic. You may recall previously I brought a motion to an AGM and raised it as a question at a regular council meeting about council practice of leaf blowing in the CBD, and more specifically leaf blowing in the morning in the mall. And the motion was unsuccessful ultimately. One of the main reasons that was given was the mental status and protection of the officers involved, which is one of the reasons for the practice of leaf blowing not being stopped. So I wasn't about to pursue that any further. However, we do have the situation at the moment, particularly the mall, and I'll be selfish here and just focus on the mall, that's where I work. No litter vacuuming up is conducted in the mall. It's entirely blown from St John Street, but with leaf blowers all the way through the mall, out into Charles Street, where it's collected later in the morning by a street sweeper. This is a new practice, but unfortunately the pressure of blowing all of the litter, including the sand and the pine leaves and cigarette butts, ends up going in the shop doors. I wonder if council would be prepared to at an officer level, review that practice, please, at an officer level. So that might involve going to the stores, speaking about the morning experience of having all of the detritus blown in their shops, particularly as most shops vacuum at night, and in the morning they're ready to open the store. So it's Is that something council would be prepared to investigate?
Mr Smith, thank you for the question. I do note that it is the same question that we've had previously, and I just would start my reply by saying I'm particularly proud of the way that our cleansing staff maintain them all in our other public spaces. That being said, we're always open to continually improving our services and listening to retailers such as yourself. So, General Manager Eberhardt, is there an opportunity, could there be an opportunity for us to review that service of cleansing?
Well, as you know, so we did review it after the question last year, and we are constantly reviewing our practices. I'm so happy to review it again, but I'm not sure how we're going to be able to change the practice. But I'm happy to have a discussion further in terms of the impact to your business.
So, Mr Smith, let's take the question on notice, and that will ensure that a more wholesome reply is provided and that we can potentially incorporate that into a review to undertake.
Thank you. Just a point to clarify there. I don't know whether you picked up on it or whether I was clear enough in saying it. I did say that the practice had changed. I don't know whether you were aware of that because the answer didn't seem to reflect it. I do believe that's what I said. So, for example, there is a new practice since the motion, a new practice, which is exclusively flowing with it. Thank you.
Let's review it.
Let's review it. Thank you. Next question. The City Heart Stage 2. And we have heard and I've spoken about what's proposed under that, and I have raised concerns to Council, particularly about suggestions under changing two-way streets in Launceston, some of them to one-way, and of course some of the one-ways turning them into two-way. And I expressed the demand that I didn't see there for that conversion. And the bus interchange, Birchall's, which is nearly 6 years empty now. I know Council's only for half of that time. Would Council go about the consultation a different way this time? Because we were only given, I think, 115 hours to review quite a substantial document that represented Stage 1. This time, is it possible to go about it a different way? Because it's quite a substantial undertaking that Council proposing, and 115 hours. Essentially, it ended with not a single comment from the member of the public. It's about a $20 to $40 million project. Didn't quite hit the mark, I think it's fair to say, particularly with the mall and the quadrant. Could Council consider going about it differently this time?
So the answer is we'll be consulting and we'll be using a variety of different models to engage in that consultation.
Thank you. I've lost track of where the third question is. The scooters. That's a triumph. I can't emphasise enough how I should declare that I use them possibly on a daily basis myself. But they really shouldn't be on footpath, not compatible with pedestrians. And I really can't get beyond that. Being a pedestrian and a rider myself, whether Launceston is unique from and we've got them in all over the city around the world. Is that something Council look at? You're not allowed to use them on bicycle lanes. You can't use them on the street. The only places for the path, and it's just not compatible.
So thank you for the question. So the first thing is I think it's important to note that the legislation passed by the state government permits them to be ridden. And you will remember that at quite a short amount of time, that legislation was passed and then the 12-month review began last December. That's due to conclude on the 17th of this month. It's now been extended through until March next year, while all of those formalised elements of feedback are included into the review that elected reps will consider early next year. So I would encourage and expect that you've done so already, but would encourage you very strongly to feed into that review by emailing those concerns to Council so that they can be captured in the review that will be undertaken after the 17th. The comments that you have raised today are shared, no doubt, by the members of our community that have already put those comments into the consultation phase, and they'll need to be considered as we move forward next year.
Thank you.
Are there any additional questions from the floor? Item 5, notices of motion. There are no notices of motion that have been identified with regard to this agenda. Are there any notices of motion from the floor? There being none, we'll move to item 6, the City of Launceston annual reports for the year ended 30th of June 2022. Before I hand over to the CEO, I think it's important that we take a moment and certainly welcome those of you from our community who are here as we look back on the 2021-22 financial year. It's important to remember that the City of Launceston manages some $1.4 billion in infrastructure, including 385 kilometres of urban road, 365 kilometres of rural road, 605 kilometres of footpaths, 87 bridges, and more than 150 parks and reserves. We deliver approximately 200 different services to our community. We manage important community facilities like the QV Mag, the Launceston Leisure and Aquatic Centre, the Car Villa Memorial Park and the Launceston Waste Centre. We provide services from childhood immunisations to swimming lessons, food safety inspections to stormwater modelling, planning services to recycling collection and a host of others too numerous to mention. The Council meets fortnightly, but our annual general meeting tonight is a chance to look back on the financial year that we've just ended to review a full 12 months of operation of our Council. It allows us, importantly, to identify trends, to understand where we need to focus in the future and to learn what has worked well in the past, as well as areas for improvement. During the most recent financial year, both our City and our Council have had many successes. And tonight we'll hear about some of the programs and initiatives we've launched, the capital projects we've completed, and some of the awards that we've won. It's just a fleeting glimpse into a very busy 12 months, full of activity, full of collaboration, full of teamwork within our organisation. And I'm very proud of what we have achieved together, particularly the camaraderie of our staff, the relationships our organisation has built with other tiers of government, the collaborations we've had with the business community, with community organisations, with event organisers, with sporting clubs, with developers and with many others. The City of Launceston is a can-do council whose operations impact every element of our municipality, and the work that our organisation undertakes makes a very real difference to our community. And so in handing over to the CEO, I believe we can look back on the previous 12 months with pride. And with a newly elected council now taking the reins, I'm personally very excited about the future of our great city. In saying that, I'll hand over to our CEO.
Thanks. Thanks very much, Mayor. So my presentation tonight will be relatively brief. We have a video presentation that runs for about 8 minutes that will sort of go through all of the highlights in terms of the achievements that the council have made over the last financial year. But there's some that I particularly just want to reference and draw out because I do think they're particularly significant in terms of their community impact moving forward. The Council endorsed the QV Mag Futures Plan, which is a pivotal document that will set a pathway to providing a contemporary governance and funding model for QV Mag into the future. So work has started on that and will take multiple years to implement, but that's a really important piece of work that has occurred. Another equally important piece of work has been in that homeless space, and really councils previously haven't had a large role in terms of delivering services or assisting service providers in the homelessness space, but certainly over the course of this financial year, our council has sought to have a role. We've developed a homelessness advisory committee, and we're working now to, connect service providers and work and establish a need, or feel a need that has been identified for the council. We've delivered $500,000 in event sponsorship and $50,000 in community grants. developed a draft Aboriginal partnership plan, significantly completed the reform of City Prom to create Launceston Central City Marketing, continued the delivery of the City Deal, delivered the Launceston Place brand. We have a new planning scheme now, with the local provisions having been completed and the public hearings all undertaken into the representations in the financial year. And in association with that, we reviewed the Northern Regional Land Use Strategy to facilitate further urban growth that we need to be able to have more homes within Launceston. And we need to connect Launceston, so we developed the Launceston Transport Strategy and also formed the new Transport Committee. It was a big year in terms of capital works. Our council is fortunate in the sense that we do have an ability to be able to deliver a lot for our community. So $24 million capital works program over the financial year. I haven't included all of the projects for the year, but certainly some of the more notable ones in terms of impact and costs. So $500,000 for CBD street furniture upgrades. We completed or provided $783,000 for the Road Safety Centre redevelopment, which is closing in on completion. $894,000 for sporting facility upgrades. Nearly $500,000 in the North Esk Trail improvements. $4.8 million was spent on the development at the Launceston Waste Centre, so upgrades and capping and the development of a new cell liners. Over $1 million in the Albert Hall upgrades and refurbishment. Nearly $7 million in roads, bridges and footpath program, and nearly $1 million for capital works at QB-Mag as well. $620,000 was spent on the new ash placement garden at Car Villa, which was an excellent project and a good outcome, as well as nearly just over $400,000 on stage 3 of the Churchill Park Sports Centre upgrade, so with the car park that's been provided there. We also extended the car park at Riverbend Park and completed landscaping around the Macquarie House where the fountain previously used to be for $167,000. So it was a really busy year for us in capital works. Financially, the council did really well, certainly better than budgeted in the financial year. So we recorded an underlying operational deficit of $993,000, and that was against a budgeted underlying deficit of $7.1 million. And that's a clear demonstration that the organisation is already starting to recover from the financial shock of the pandemic, and as is the city. So from a council's point of view, the shock was associated with the $10 million COVID community care and recovery package that we implemented and delivered for the community in rapid time. But certainly the better than budgeted results were driven by increased or better than expected revenues. So we had an additional $453,000 in rates and charges. Fees and charges equally were positive, over $500,000, while our user fees, we had record membership levels at the Launceston Aquatic Centre. Our parking and waste fees all were significantly better off than budgeted, recording a $1.67 million positive result. We had lower than budgeted employee costs of $3.2 million, and that's obviously with the churn of employees that we're seeing post-COVID. So it was a really productive year. And so with that, I will throw to this really fabulous production that's been completed by our staff and I hope you enjoy a summary of what we've achieved this year.
Huge year at the City of Launceston, with a raft of exciting initiatives and projects rolled out across the municipality. The 2021-22 financial year saw Launceston recognised with a number of achievements. In February, Launceston was named as the nation's top travel destination in the 2022 Aussie Town of the Year Awards by online travel giant Whatif.com. The annual awards, now in their 5th year, are determined by Whatif data covering accommodation affordability, quality and traveller satisfaction. Launceston topped the list against stiff competition from Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia and Western Australia. Launceston scored another significant achievement, being officially designated as a UNESCO Creative City of Gastronomy. For decades, Northern Tasmania has been recognised for the quality of its food, wine and fresh produce, but this year it finally became official. Following collaboration from 7 northern councils and external key stakeholders, Launceston joins an exclusive list as one of only 49 cities across the globe to be recognised by the designation a UNESCO Creative City. Tasmania's first purpose-built mobile animal shelter for use in natural disasters was recognised twice on the national stage this year. The City of Launceston constructed the shelter based in a 40-foot shipping container to house the most at-risk animals in emergencies like bushfires and floods. The shelter, which was designed to be easily transportable to any part of the state, boasts animal care facilities, insulation, air conditioning, LED lighting, extraction fans, running water, as well as an administration area. The shelter won the national prize in the innovation category at the Companion Animal Rescue Awards, which was followed by the Tasmanian Local Government Award at the Resilient Australian Awards. And a mental health initiative from the City of Launceston and the Launceston Suicide Prevention Trial was presented with a People's Choice Award at the Australian Men's Health Forum's 2022 Men's Health Awards. The Barbers for Life project offered Launceston barbers and community members the opportunity to undertake a mental health first aid course with the aim of sparking meaningful conversations between barbers and clients. The City of Launceston bestowed its highest honour on dual Olympic gold medalist Ariane Titmus at a ceremony in Civic Square. Titmus, who won 4 medals in the pool at the Tokyo Olympics, was also honoured with the renaming of the Launceston Leisure and Aquatic Centre's 50-metre competition pool, which is now known as the Ariane Titmus Competition Pool. In more positive news, Launceston continues to be a growing city. Last year, the City of Launceston approved $238 million worth of development across 674 applications. This means that over the past 5 years, the City of Launceston has approved $1.2 billion worth of development across more than 3,400 projects in the Launceston municipality. During the year, the Council adopted a new flying flags policy, guiding how flags are flown at council facilities. The policy outlines the circumstances in which flags are to be flown at half-mast, where flags are flown, and in what order. For the first time, this also means that the Aboriginal flag is now flown permanently alongside the Australian flag on Town Hall and the Albert Hall. As part of the Launceston City Heart project, more than 30 public seats were replaced across the CBD and in the Mowbray Business Zone, along with upgrades to existing seating in the Brisbane Street Mall to provide new charging points for phones, laptops and other electronic devices. The City of Launceston and the Launceston Chamber of Commerce signed a new Greening of Launceston Memorandum of Understanding, which seeks to enhance Launceston's green spaces by increasing the number of street trees, plantings and arbor systems across the urban realm. The City of Launceston installed 4 new public electric vehicle charging stations in some of the municipality's most popular visitor destinations. A 7 kilowatt charger was installed at Cataract Gorge, while 3 22 kilowatt chargers were installed at Riverbend Park, the Embrace Half Circle Car Park and at the Lilydale Memorial Hall. The Council completed the construction of a new landfill cell at the Launceston Waste Centre, the latest in a series of cells which will serve the region's waste needs for the next 3 decades. Construction began on the new cell in February 2021 and involved the excavation of more than 48,000 cubic metres of earth to a depth of some 6 metres. The new landfill cell is the largest ever constructed by the City of Launceston and covers an area of 32,000 square metres. The Council also completed construction of the new Garden of Memories at Cardwell Memorial Park, capable of housing more than 4,700 ash placements. Following the adoption of the UTAS Stadium Future Directions Plan, the City of Launceston continued to work with the state government to transition ownership of the stadium to the new authority, Stadiums Tasmania, a move that will lead to new efficiencies in terms of the management of the facility. As part of the Council's innovative new full-gear motorcycle program, young people from Launceston's northern suburbs were offered the opportunity to obtain their learner motorcycle licence through a course structured around responsibility and personal safety. In January, the Council adopted its Sustainability Action Plan. The plan sets out how the organisation will improve its environmental sustainability across its operations, service delivery and assets, and draws on a range of previous sustainability reports and data sources. The City of Launceston has taken a key leadership role in sustainability and has rolled out a number of energy efficiency projects in recent years. This includes the replacement of more than 4,800 streetlights with LED variants, the trial of 2 electric Nissan Leaf vehicles in the council's light vehicle fleet, the installation of solar photovoltaic systems on 13 council-managed facilities, totaling more than 1,785 panels or 466 kilowatts, as well as the introduction of the state's largest curbside FOGO service for green waste. The City of Launceston's FOGO service continues to expand. The total amount of FOGO collected through curbside bins increased to 4,000 tonnes, up from 3,700 tonnes the year previous. The council completed a major redevelopment of the public toilets and parenting facilities in the Patterson Street West multi-storey car park. The Patterson Street West upgrade project involved 3 elements: the construction of new parenting facilities, the replacement of the public toilets fronting Patterson Street, as well as the construction of a new accessible changing places bathroom. The new parenting facilities includes updated fittings and provides a more contemporary changing experience for Northern Tasmanian families, with private nursing areas, play areas and pram parking spaces. Launceston's CBD business sector has continued to bounce back from COVID-19. The council's State of the City report found that out of 1,073 businesses in the Central Activities District, 914 were trading and only 22 were classified as empty. We'd like to take this opportunity to thank Launceston residents for their support over the past year and look forward to more exciting projects in the future as we seek to make Launceston one of the world's great regional cities.
That's it.
Great, thank you, CEO. So the recommendation is that Council 1 receives the City of Launceston annual report for the year ended 30 June 2022 and pursuant to section 72A of the Local Government Act submits 1 copy of the annual report to the Director of Local Government and on to the Director of Public Health. And 2, that Council notes the QVMag annual report, that this was received by Council at its meeting on the 17th of November this year, and the Launceston Flood Authority annual report for the period ended 30 June 2022 was received by the Council at its meeting earlier today on the 1st of November 2022. 1st of December 2022, thank you. Someone to move. Thank you. Councillor Britton. Seconder. Councillor Harris. Councillor Britton, do you wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Harris, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Very briefly, just to say that, yes, it's been a very busy year for the council. To see it all up there on the screen, it was quite good. I guess we have to look forward to what we're going to have to do this year to, I won't say top it, but at least to be as busy. I know the development applications might be down a little bit, but yes, the council certainly does an awful lot in 1 year. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone present wish to speak to the motion or ask a question pertaining to the motion? No further contributions? Deputy Mayor, I wonder if you would just have the floor for a moment, take charge of the meeting for a moment while I take to the floor. I would just like, CEO, to thank you most sincerely on behalf of the elected representatives and the broader members of our community for the way that you and the members of the executive leadership team and the broader staff continue to work so hard for the benefit of our community. I speak with a great deal of sincerity when I say that there's no doubt that it has been, again, a very busy, trying year, that workforce demands in terms of the ability for us to attract and recruit staff matched with the expectations that we have with a very busy work schedule means that no day, no week is dull. But the way that you and the members of the staff continue to deliver for our community is appreciated and valued. And we thank you most sincerely for that. Councillor Britton, do you wish to close? We'll put the vote. All those in favour, raise their hand. Those against? And the motion is carried. That brings us to the end of our annual general meeting for this year. Can I sincerely thank those members of our community who have joined us? It is appreciated. And I think our general public attendance is up 1 or 2 on last year, which we will take as a positive. We'll close the meeting at 6:10. Thank you.